Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Nitya Lingam, and I am a program manager at Community Business. I will be moderating today's session, Promoting Social Inclusion in India and the Power of Employee Volunteering. As we kick off this session, I would like to highlight that this session is live and being recorded. It will be available for download for a period of 30 days to all that have registered. At Community Business, we believe that responsible businesses have a role to play in promoting social inclusion by creating opportunities for disadvantaged or underrepresented groups to participate more fully in society. In this session, we will discuss the merit of aligning a company's CSR efforts with their diversity and inclusion strategy, looking beyond the four walls of their organization to remove barriers to inclusion for those disadvantaged on the basis of their identity. Also, as employee engagement is a key element of CSR strategies of leading organizations, we will extend the conversation to look at the importance of employee engagement in such initiatives, and in particular, the power of employee volunteering. We are excited to have with us today Leandra Mendonça from BNY Mellon and Satya Prakash Singh from Intel. Leandra is the Regional Head for Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Affairs at BNY Mellon, India, and also a member of the BNY Mellon India Executive Committee. Leandra is responsible for building the diversity and inclusion strategy and providing broad-based support and thought leadership to the D&I Council and employee resource groups. As head of the Community Affairs program, she is responsible for overseeing the company's philanthropic strategy and identifying several meaningful projects for the company to support. Under Leandra's leadership, the Community Partnership Program, which is the employee volunteering program at BNY Mellon India, has grown leaps and bounds and is one of the most vibrant programs across the company. We also have Satya with us today. Satya leads the corporate communications and CSR functions for Intel India. He has over 20 years of media experience and corporate communications experience. During Satya's over 10 years at Intel, he has built a strong communications team with expertise in internal communications, leadership engagements, social media, PR, and CSR. Satya also leads the Intel Involved program, an initiative that supports employee volunteering efforts across Intel India and also oversees CSR programs. Before we begin our conversation, I would like to encourage participants to use the live chat box to post any questions you might have throughout the session. We will be sure to address your questions during the last 15 minutes of the session allotted for Q&A. Leandra and Satya, thank you so much for joining us today. I'd like to start by clarifying first what we mean when we talk about promoting social inclusion. What does it mean to your organization, and why do you think it is important for companies in India particularly to play a role in addressing this? Leandra, let's start with you.
Thank you, Satya, and good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to be a part of this virtual conference today. So to answer your question, Satya, social inclusion is commonly understood as a process where efforts are made to enable individuals achieve their full potential in life by providing equal opportunities regardless of backgrounds, gender, race, religion, etc. Given that BNY Mellon is an equal opportunity employer, we have always extended the same ethos to the wider community. Our vision is to improve lives through investing, and over the years, we have supported many projects that have created a positive change in making our communities better places to live and work. As we all know, India has a significant rural as well as urban slum population, with the largest number of poor, illiterate, and unemployed people in the world. It is therefore important for companies to undertake initiatives for the benefit of the society at large, thus helping in bridging the divide between the haves and the have-nots.
Thank you so much for that, Leandra. Satya, could you also please share Intel's views on this topic as well?
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's happy to be part of this virtual conference and to be speaking and interacting with this very esteemed audience. For any corporate, responsible corporate citizen, embedding social inclusion into its culture is really, really important. And opportunities to make a difference in this space are plenty. And there are so many underrepresented communities in the society today. They typically belong to economically and socially disadvantaged sections of society, people with disabilities, minority communities, and people in the strife-prone areas which have not seen development much. So for corporates or any organization for that matter, it's really critical to really bring them to main fold and drive different interventions leading to the societal transformation. On the other hand, there's a very interesting trend that is happening, the power of technology. Technology is breaking down barriers and bringing different people to the ambit of development. However, it's really important to galvanize and include different marginalized sections of society into technology creation as well as adoption. And at Intel, we have a saying, when our communities win, we win. Intel being a technology leader, we believe that innovation is fundamental to inclusion. And we make attempts, we take different efforts to bring people from different backgrounds, perspectives, experiences to be part of our diversity inclusion journey. And that really enables organizations like Intel to really innovate, transform, and make the world a better place to live with a lot of diversity inclusion. Our focus has been to really promote diversity inclusion within the workplace and the communities around us by including everyone in the dialogue in different activities and programs that we do.
Excellent. Thank you both so much for those responses. I'd now like to ask about the strategic approach your organizations have taken to conceptualize and develop their strategy to promoting social inclusion. Leandra, could you please share what the driving factors were for BNY Mellon in choosing its approach and focus area? Also, how is your program linked to your company's diversity and inclusion agenda?
Sure. So our commitment to diversity and inclusion stems from a larger aspiration to make a difference where it matters the most. BNY Mellon is a global company, and our people embody the diversity and potential of today's world. In a way, India helps add a dimension of diversity to our company. And I'm proud to say that we are not defined by our differences. In fact, we are driven by them. They are the foundation of a dynamic workplace where each of us can speak up, make a unique contribution, and grow. Our varied backgrounds, perspectives, and experiences spark fresh thinking, helping us to blaze new paths to progress and to deliver profitable returns for our clients and our investors. Now, we have several cross-company employee resource groups at BNY Mellon that act as catalysts for change. For example, we support the advancement and empowering of women in the company. We also raise awareness around disabilities. A third employee resource group supports professional opportunities for our multicultural employees. Bridging the gap between the different generations that work at BNY Mellon is another employee resource group that we support. We also foster an open and supportive environment for the LGBT community. And finally, we have an employee resource group in place that supports the professional development and advancement of veterans and members of the broader military family who work at BNY Mellon or are actively transitioning from military life. Now, all of these issues are not exclusive to BNY Mellon or to any workplace, but exist on a large scale in the wider community as well. And therefore, it is easy for us to align our diversity and inclusion and philanthropic strategies and link them at different levels. Economic empowerment and technology and digital capacity building form the overarching agenda of our philanthropic strategy. Through economic empowerment, we promote long-term economic sustainability by investing in education that focuses on supporting the retraining and reskilling of people, thereby developing the workforce of the future. Through technology and digital capacity building, we focus on building next-generation business and technology skills to contribute to society in a digital world. A key element in our strategy is to promote pathways to technology careers. Over to you, Nithya.
Thank you so much, Leandra. It's incredible to hear about the expansive amount of work being done at BNY Mellon. Satya, could you please also share Intel's views on the same?
Absolutely. Intel is very well committed to diversity, inclusion, and our initiatives are really helping to create a world where everyone can realize their fullest potential. And as far as social inclusion is concerned, is very strongly tied to our overall diversity inclusion strategy or the thought process. So basically it's three-pronged, the social inclusion strategy that we have within the organization. First one is the deep commitment from the organization, where the tone at the top is really, really important. What I mean by commitment from the organization, that the organization is really committed to drive a difference or make a difference in the communities around us, in the society which is around us. And it starts from the from the top leadership, and it percolates down to managers and employees, right? So the entire organization is rallying around that particular commitment to make the difference to the communities around us. Second piece is about making deeper impact, right? We have different programs which are very well thought out by engaging stakeholders internally who are employees, and also stakeholders externally, to ensure that those programs are making deeper and longer lasting transformation in the society and communities at large. Third piece is collaboration, which is absolutely critical. Collaboration within the organization by bringing together our employees who are our strong advocates, our managers, our leaders, bringing them in the thought process as we design our CSR, the social inclusion strategy. And the second one is the ecosystem, right? We are very fortunate to work, operate in an ecosystem which is absolutely vibrant, very committed to drive transformation in the society. We work with the government, NGOs, and like-minded corporates or entities. So together, we bring in all the talent, all the capabilities, all the interest and enthusiasm, and make a difference in the community. So three things. First one is leadership, commitment from the organization. Second thing is deeper impact. Third one is collaboration. I think these three really comprise our thought process and approach as far as social inclusion is concerned.
Excellent. Thank you, Satya. It's really interesting to note how both organizations have a clear tie to their D&I strategies, but still assume different focus areas and approaches. It's wonderful to see that. I'd now like for both of you to help us understand a bit more about your programs. I'd like to invite each of you to share details about your flagship programs that promote social inclusion in the wider community in India. Leandra, could you please begin by sharing details about the Women Empowerment Program and how you have impacted the lives of these women and their families?
Sure. So I'd like to start by saying that while women's empowerment in the workplace is a growing area of strength for BNY Mellon, it remains an opportunity area across the wider community in India, and indeed across the world. And therefore, one of the main areas of focus for us has been to not only empower women and girls from the marginalized communities across India, enabling them to live secure and resilient lives with dignity, but also to help create a more gender-sensitive environment through various awareness campaigns. Now, one of our women empowerment programs has been to upskill and empower the wives of policemen in Pune. It all began in 2014-15, when as part of our community partnership program, we organized a huge traffic awareness campaign across the city of Pune. Our employees conducted several awareness drives in some of the slums that we support and the nearby colleges as well, to inculcate good traffic discipline among the youth living in these areas. Similar sessions were also conducted for the drivers who ferry our employees to and from the office. We even conducted a peaceful walk through the city, encouraging commuters to wear seat belts, helmets, and abide by the traffic rules. Now, during these exercises, we were in constant contact with the local police, and through our conversations, we came to know that no one, to our knowledge, was working with their wives or children. So with the help of our NGO partner, Seva Sahyog, we did a needs assessment, after which we launched our digital literacy program, where we upgraded the computer lab at the local police public school, not only with hardware, but also with new computer course to make the subject more interesting for the kids. As a next step, we had conversations with the wives of the local policemen to understand their needs and how we could help in upskilling them so that they could become independent and supplement their family's income. I must say that the journey was not an easy one, as the women were very hesitant in the beginning. However, over time and with constant support from Seva Sahyog, the women started coming in large numbers to the local center to learn how to make jute bags, terracotta jewelry, rakhis, and paper quilling. We then installed special machines to support them with stitching and embroidery and invited professionals to conduct catering courses for them as well. Now, in addition, we also offered them professional training in marketing, networking, etiquette, and presentation skills. Regular exposure visits within as well as outside Pune to manufacturing units were also organized to broaden their horizons and boost their self-esteem. As a result of the project, we helped bring these women into the mainstream through education and income generation. The program, which started with only 100 women, continues to grow organically, and those women who have benefited are now our advocates for the same, encouraging other women to join. Over 550 women have been trained so far, and the number of direct beneficiaries is even greater, as entire households have benefited from the added income. Many of the women have adopted the train the trainer model and go out to other police communities to share their knowledge and skills. Encouraging the women to be self-sufficient has been an important aspect of our program. And a good example that comes to mind is the NGO's annual Walk for Seva event, which is organized to raise awareness about life in slums. At the end of this event, snacks are normally served to thousands of participants, and the NGO felt that it was only appropriate to order these snacks from the women who had just been trained through their catering program. So these women divided themselves into groups and successfully managed to prepare the required snacks. Being able to cater to an event of this magnitude gave the women a huge confidence boost, and they have now ventured into taking large orders for corporations as well. Last year alone, the women made over 10.5 lakh rupees in revenue by selling their various products. The NGO has also opened a store for the women to sell their goods, and they've also set up stalls in various office campuses, especially during festivals. And it's wonderful to see the innovative products that the women supply. As a next step, we are offering these women advanced courses with a special focus on attention to detail, especially in the final finishing of their products. The exposure visits continue, and these have helped in broadening their horizon and learning how to color coordinate their products to ensure maximum satisfaction to the consumers.
Thank you so much, Leandra. It's absolutely fascinating to see the success you've had recently with this number of women, and also the continued efforts that BNY Mellon is putting in to ensure even greater success. So really fascinating and inspiring to see that. Satya, I understand that Intel's work with persons with disability has also seen quite a bit of success. Could you please also share details about your program?
Yes, sure, Nitya. Actually, at Intel, we are very proud about the work that we're doing in the communities across different areas, from education, healthcare, diversity, which includes helping our people with disabilities, environment, technology for good. These programs, these initiatives are really making very encouraging impact on the ground. So as far as our initiatives in the for the people with disabilities are concerned. So there is a very interesting project a bunch of our volunteers have done. I'll talk about that. So these volunteers are essentially engineers. They came together, and as you know, maybe I'll talk a little bit about the essence of our employee volunteering, where it's very uniquely and beautifully blends employee skills, interest, and obviously the organization focus areas, right? So these employees or these volunteers are engineers, so they brought in their skills and just looked for avenues or platforms where that can be leveraged and utilized to make to drive a social impact. They work with an NGO called APD, Association for People with Disabilities, and they cater to a section of youth between the age group of 18 and 22, and try to give them avenues that they can earn their livelihood. Essentially what they did, they actually trained this, enabled and trained this youth on the mobile phones repair skills, as well as IoT, Internet of Things skills, so that they can get employed at different mobile phone outlets, as well as some of the startups doing work in the IoT area. So this volunteer, they work with the NGO, they work with the existing curriculum or the training module that they had, and make some tweaks to bring in the technology nuances to the module. And as a result, these volunteers, in partnership with the NGO and also some help from the other agencies, were able to train about 50 youth with special abilities. And out of the 50, about 30 of them were employed at different outlets, as well as some of the startups. So it's a very, very inspiring to see the impact that has been done by our employee volunteers. I'll give another example as we speak that comes to my mind. We do a contest for our employees to enhance their social leadership. A group of employees came up with an idea to develop an app. They call the app Margdarshi, which is for students who are visually challenged. And as we know, the students students who are visually challenged, they actually take help of a guide to answer the questions, right? So basically, they speak, the coaches or the guides, it really help them to respond to the questions. So actually, these employees, they actually developed an app which actually enables the student to really hear the questions and all be able to respond, respond with answers in the audio format. So that the app is in development, but we see a huge potential that it can drive for this section of the society. So these are some of the examples of our efforts in the helping people with disabilities, and we are very, very happy about the progress that we're making in this space.
Thank you, Satya, for sharing. It's really heartening to see both organizations so committed to promoting the social inclusion of these targeted groups and impacting such positive change in the wider community. Really interesting and fascinating to see how far you've come. And I'm sure our participants are inspired to take note of the same. You both happen to touch on the fact that employees really played a key role in conceptualizing and implementing these initiatives. I'd now like to move on to discuss employee volunteering. Leandra, could you begin by sharing BNY Mellon's approach to employee volunteering? For example, how do you promote, encourage, track, and even measure your employee volunteering efforts?
Sure, Nitya. So our community partnership program at BNY Mellon empowers employees to support the communities in which we live and work. From individual involvement, through support for local charities, to team experiences and meaningful partnerships, the program encourages community engagement at all levels of the company. To encourage employee participation across the globe, our company offers incentives that include company matching donations, paid volunteer time, and employee recognition as well. Now at BNY Mellon India, we support over 15 NGO partners across Pune and Chennai. Each of them goes through a rigorous vetting process with our global vetting partners, and only after this happens, we can begin our volunteering. At the beginning of every year, we sit with each NGO and chalk out a plan that not only supports their needs, but also aligns to our strategy. We then have discussions with our internal stakeholders to share this strategy and also to understand their team's appetite to volunteer. While we have teams who volunteer on a one-off basis, we also have several teams who have long-standing initiatives with the NGOs. For example, many of our teams support spoken English or maths and science projects with school children, and their volunteers go every week or every 2 weeks over the entire year to support these children. This requires a great deal of commitment, and I'm really proud to see the dedication with which our employees, many of whom work at nights, sacrifice their weekends to help make a difference in the lives of these children. Now, even though our company offers each employee 3 days paid volunteer time, more than 80% of our employee volunteers either go before or after their shifts or even on weekends. And this makes the program so much more meaningful. Regular communications are sent out to the volunteers in appreciation for their efforts, ensuring that their respective managers and senior leaders are always in the loop. This kind of recognition always helps to boost the morale of the volunteers. Now, to answer your question of tracking and measuring our volunteering efforts, we have a global platform on which every volunteering event has to be uploaded at least 2 weeks in advance of the event. And only once the approval has been received, do we go ahead and implement the event. At the end of every event, the same has to be closed on the system by ensuring that only those who volunteered have their details uploaded. This helps in tracking not only how many employees volunteered per event, but also how much time was volunteered. And the latter goes into calculating the matching grant that the NGO receives at the end of every quarter, thus increasing the impact of our grants to the charities with additional support from employee teams. Now, a good example of our employee volunteering program and how our matching grant has been utilized is with one of our NGOs that we support called Akshar Bharati. Now, Akshar Bharati specializes in setting up libraries for children between the age groups of 5 and 15 from underprivileged and remote areas by facilitating access to good non-academic literature. Now, we set up libraries for such children in their localities so that the books are made available when they need them the most. Every year, our employees help to cover books and catalog them in a systematic manner for use in these libraries. And because of the nature of the activity, the book covering and barcoding can sometimes be done in our office premises, which allows our employees who work in the night shift to also contribute their time and effort for a good cause. Now, the matching grant generated from these activities has gone into purchasing 3 mobile vans that serve as mobile libraries across the city. Every year, approximately 60 new libraries are being set up, and the mobile vans help in circulating the books across all of the localities. Really proud to say that from January to September this year, over 81,000 books have been covered, stamped, and barcoded. And I must mention that coincidentally, we have an event in our office today as well. And you're not going to believe this, Nitya, but from the corner of my eye, I just peeked out of my window and I can actually see one of our mobile vans parked outside our building. Great branding opportunity for us. Thank you.
Leanda, thank you so much for sharing those details with us. Firstly, I think it's fascinating how you're really engaging with your night shift employees as well, because I think that's one of the challenges a lot of corporates face. And really great to see how far you've come and how it's still ongoing, as you said, even today. So that's really great. Satya, I understand that Intel CSR programs are in very large part driven by the interest of its employees, as you mentioned. Could you please share how Intel engages and enables its employee volunteers?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Nitya. So employee volunteering is a key pillar of our CSR strategy. At Intel, we have 6 core values, and one of our core values really encourages employees to be an asset to the communities around us. So it's a core of our DNA. And we definitely encourage our employees to contribute to the communities around us towards the community development. So employees get a platform and different opportunities to extend their skills, competency, and interest to really drive sustainable and long-term impact to the communities around us. And we call our program Intel Involved program. And so it happens at 3 levels. First one is at the individual level. So at individuals, employees are encouraged to do their community activities. So as an individual, as an employee, I can pick an NGO or a school of my choice and start volunteering. The second one that we do is through the business groups. These business groups organize quarterlies, events at a quarterly cadence, and employees, and they can pick any theme. It can be education, it can be healthcare, it can be livelihood, and they go and partner with an NGO and engage employees and drive that particular intervention. The third one that we do at an organization level, at the organization-wide scale, it could be lake rejuvenation drive, where we do the plantation and the greening project, where our employees, participate in large numbers. Or it could be, last Friday, actually, we organized an event at our campus about marking the International Day of the Girl, where we had about 80 girl students, along with their parents and teachers, coming to our campus, spending a day where our volunteers were engaged with them to tell them about the importance of education. They did it in a very interesting manner by engaging them, involving them through skits and other creative methods. And it was quite a fulfilling experience for them as well as for us, right? So that happens the site level. So the 3 ones. So individually, group level, and at an organization level. So the 3 ways that we do our employee volunteering activities. Then we have another program that we call Intel Involved Volunteering Match Grant Program, which essentially entails that as an individual, I not only contribute, for every hour that I contribute, Intel Foundation does a match grant by paying $5 for each hour. Let's imagine if I'm teaching math at a school, in a year, I may be contributing about 100 hours. That 100 hours of my contributions really go to the school, really helping out the student, really enhance the science and math skills. At the end of the day, the Intel Foundation will accumulate my hours and do the match grant. That money can be spent in terms of setting up a computer lab or setting up a library. So it's kind of really doubling down on the benefit to the school or the NGO if it is concerned, right? So we are very, very excited about contributing to these programs. And there is a very strong mechanism that we have in terms of measuring our contributions, the impact that we make. If I can talk about some data points, last year we contributed about 33,000 volunteering hours across different vectors: education, healthcare, livelihood, technology for good, and environment, diversity. And every second employee actually contributed to Intel Involved program. So 46% of our employees contributed to the program. And a lot of our newer employees, actually employees who joined our organization in 2016, they were part of it. It's very, very vital for us, because when we go and speak to our employees, current employees as well as future employees, they really appreciate Intel's commitment to the social development a lot, and that becomes a key aspect of our value proposition as an employer.
Thank you so much for that, Satya. It's so interesting to hear about how you really engaged with your employees and also utilize their skill sets, and even invited students and their families to come to your own offices, to use your own office premises. Thank you also for sharing those statistics. I think that's really aspirational for a lot of organizations. So really great to hear that you had 46% of your employees participating, and the innumerable number of hours, and of course money that's converted into in terms of grants for those NGOs. So great job. I'd also like to ask, you both. Why do you feel that engaging employee volunteers is so powerful? How do you feel that it benefits not only the project and the employees, but the organization as well? Satya, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. I think it's really vital to engage employees in the community development or the corporate social responsibility programs. To me, really three things stand out. First one is that making deeper and sustainable impact, right? So when we engage our employees, we are also at the same time leveraging the network that they would have built. Right, the network that they come with, we leverage those networks as well. Actually, we give a chance to our employees to suggest NGOs. So basically, the NGOs that they work with are the NGOs of their choice, right? And through that, we are able to really make a deeper impact as far as community development is concerned. So social impact is number one. Second one is creating a very vital and strong organization. So when your employees are engaged, when employees are energized, that makes an organization really strong and right, and makes it a very vital organization, right? Because of the Intel involved programs, so we find very committed employees, huge amount of stickiness to the organization. They really believe in what Intel does in this space. So at the end of the day, our employee retention is pretty good and very committed. I'm sure that must be translating to the employee happiness quotient, employee productivity quotient, and really builds a great organization, right? So first one is social impact. Second one is energizing employees around CSR program. The third one is our position or our reputation in the ecosystem, right? We get inspired by great work done by other companies. At the same time, we share our learnings, our experiences with others, and the work that we have been doing in this space. So that really helps us to reinforce ourselves as a role model organization that really cares for the communities, that really cares for the people at large. I think the other three things that really matter as far as our community development programs are concerned.
Thank you, Satya. And I'm so happy that you mentioned the point specifically about learning from other organizations and also sharing what you do, which is precisely why we're here today. And I'm so glad that we're giving others the opportunity to hear what you're doing and hopefully be inspired by that as well. Leandra, could you please share your thoughts on the same in terms of how employee volunteering also not only just benefits the NGOs, their beneficiaries and employees, but also your larger organization?
Sure, Nitya. Thank you. So over the past 9 years, since our community partnership program has been in existence, our employee volunteering has grown in leaps and bounds. And if I look at this year's stats, for just the first 9 months, our employees have volunteered over 20,000 hours, impacting thousands of lives. Now, one of the things that we've encouraged over the years is for our employees to come together and volunteer as a team. And this has worked really well, moreover, contributing to teamwork, which is one of the values by which we live. We've also noticed that after these volunteering events, teams are bonding really well, and this has positively impacted our business. Additionally, these volunteering opportunities provide our employees with leadership training and gives them an opportunity to use their skills from work to benefit the community. Last year, we introduced a volunteering program, especially for new joiners, where every month we have an event specially conducted for them to enable them to experience the joy of living, the joy of giving, as early as possible in their careers with us. Last but not the least, I would like to mention that personally, I feel really blessed to be part of an organization like BNY Mellon, which has such a wonderful program in place. And I think it's because of this program that we as employees have been exposed to those who are less fortunate than ourselves. And this has truly helped shape us into better individuals who genuinely want to make a difference and help those in the wider community and improve the quality of life, especially of those who are disadvantaged. It finally comes down to commitment and passion. And I think it is this passion that drives our employees to sacrifice their personal time to the cause, week on week, month on month.
Thank you so much for that, Leandra. Again, so important of you to mention that it gives an opportunities for employees to really engage with the outside communities and get a better understanding of the wider communities that we're all living in and working in. So thank you both again for sharing those details about your programs and how they have impacted your organizations. It's really important to take note of the fact that while both of your approaches to employee volunteering differ, both of your organizations truly see the value in engaging and enabling volunteers to take action and follow their passion. Now that we've had an opportunity to learn about some of the initiatives BNY Mellon and Intel have undertaken to promote social inclusion, as well as how they engage and enable volunteers, I'd like to understand what positive impact has your company seen both in its approach to promoting social inclusion and employee volunteering. Leandra, could you please elaborate on why these programs and initiatives remain in the forefront for not only BNY Mellon's CSR agenda, but also its business agenda?
Sure, Nitya. So I'd like to start by saying that at BNY Mellon, CSR is not a philosophy. It is a company-wide strategy that brings together innovative ideas and impactful programs to help solve some of the world's biggest problems and create positive and sustainable change. Now, our corporate social responsibility is crucial to how we fulfill our role as a major global financial institution. At BNY Mellon, we are invested in our markets, our people, and our world. Our clients trust us every day with their investments, and we depend on our talented and diverse workforce to meet client needs with the highest standards of excellence and integrity. And that is why it's important that we help build an inclusive and supportive environment where our people are empowered to contribute and succeed. And in addition to our responsibility to act in our stakeholders' best interests, we also want to have a positive impact on people's lives. And therefore, we choose CSR priorities that integrate with our business strategies to create greater impact than they can generate on their own. This approach benefits our business and, more importantly, brings tangible values to our shareholders, clients, communities, as well as employees. So I'd like to end by saying that our CSR strategy and global company strategy align to improve lives through investing.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Leandra. Satya, could you please also share how these programs and initiatives have had a positive impact at Intel India as well? I know you mentioned, for example, the attrition levels. If you'd like to elaborate further, we'd love to hear more.
Yeah, sure. Intel has been present in India since 2000, and we have been very deeply engaged and invested in the country to accelerate innovation and engineering advancements here, right? At the same time, we also work the communities around us to make a perceptible transformation, primarily in their upliftment on the development areas, right? So Intel's vision or Intel's goal is to really deliver technologies and innovations that enrich lives of every person on earth, right? So our CSR is very tightly linked to that particular goal, where here our employees are leveraging their skills, their talent, and galvanizing everything together and driving deeper impact on the ground. And we are very satisfied, we are very encouraged to see the progress that we have been making as an organization. And we look forward to working with the ecosystem around us, communities around us, to continue to make the impact.
Thank you, Satya. So in our audience today, we have members from various organizations and different business sectors as well. What advice do you both have for other companies as they seek to develop strategic and sustainable programs in India? Satya, let's start with you.
Yeah, I would say, learning has been a key aspect of our journey. It has been absolutely enriching experience working with NGOs, government agencies, fellow travelers, or rather I'll say co-travelers along the journey. And as I reflect, the three things really stand out for me. Maybe some of them I would have already spoken about. One is the social impact, right? The programs, the CSR programs should be designed and implemented in a way that is really making social impact in the areas where we want to drive the transformation. That's important. The second one is transparency. Is absolutely critical. That's the hygiene factor. Being transparent to your internal stakeholders, your employees, program supporters, your CSR champions, DNI champions here within the organization, being transparent about your processes, the impact that you're making, the way you're running the program is important. At the same time, being transparent to your external partners, whether it's the NGOs or the communities and things like that. And I believe if we do these things right, that would help to earn acceptance and credibility, which is really, really important, very vital. Second thing I will talk about, I will really focus on the engagement piece of it. Engagement with the ecosystem, with the players outside who are your partners, your fellow travelers, fellow co-travelers, and as well as internally the employees who are our greatest assets as far as CSR intervention is concerned. So I would see if we bring the three things together, it would be win-win for the corporates like Intel as well as communities where we want to really drive strong transformation.
Thank you so much, Satya. Such an important note talking about transparency as well. So thank you for mentioning that as well. Leandra, what would your advice be for other companies as they seek to develop sustainable programs in India?
So I think the most important thing to be mindful of, when creating a strategy in the beginning is to ensure that the strategy aligns with who you are as an organization, your mission, your vision, and your brand identity. The next step would be to pick up a few core focus areas in which to make a significant impact. Then, and this advice I'm giving is based on how we have worked in the past. So, it may be different from company to company. But it's always good to identify good, reputed NGOs to work with who have proven expertise in the area that you want to support. Work with these NGOs to do needs assessments of the communities, to identify the projects you want to support. A very key thing that I want to mention here is about securing leadership buy-in. So for a program, a CSR program to be successful, support from senior leadership is very essential. If members of the C-suite are active champions of your CSR initiatives and inspire action from top down, social responsibility will eventually permeate all levels of a company. Engage your employees. Employee involvement is critical to the success of a CSR program. Make sustainability and CSR personal by connecting with employees' personal values, passions, and interests. So one thing that has worked really well for us was to identify groups or individuals within the company who are passionate about CSR and empower them to take ownership of volunteer events or employee fundraising campaigns. And as Satya rightly said, CSR programs can also be a tool for employee retention and recruitment. Once you have identified your projects to support, please ensure that you have proper follow-up procedures baked in, especially with respect to budget allocation and spend. Another thing that has worked really well for us is regular site visits. We feel are very important, along with interaction with the beneficiaries of your program, because that's when you actually understand, what's happening on the ground and what's the feedback, from the beneficiaries. And finally, request for impact reports on a regular basis, because it's important for companies to validate their CSR program through quantitative as well as qualitative data. Thank you.
Thanks, Leandra. I'm so glad you brought up the idea of site visits as well, because I think it's so important for those to stay connected and close to the program and its beneficiaries. So great. Thank you both so much for sharing the insights. And I think they're going to be really helpful for organizations and our participants that are looking for new and innovative ways to approach promoting social inclusion, as well as leverage the strength of their employees in their volunteering efforts. It's also clear from your input how beneficial these programs can be, not only to the wider community, but really also to the corporate organizations as well. I'd now like to address some of the questions we've received from our audience. So I'll just take some of these at random. So the first one that has come up is, and it could be to either of you. So how do you communicate the success of your programs internally to your wider employee base? For example, do you use regular email updates? Do you use video, social media? How do you communicate the success back?
Hi, Nitya, if I can take a shot at it. Yeah, I think communication is very, very important, right? And there is an opportunity to engage volunteers in communication. So what we do at Intel India, we have among the volunteers, we have a subgroup that we have formed for communication, right? That particular group actually recommends and advises what kind of communication that we should do internally, right? So actually, if there is an Intel involved event happening at the site, at our campus, actually we assign one of the volunteers to be the reporter for that event. So the reporting outcome could be a video. Actually, our volunteers, our Intel involved volunteers have done many videos about different interventions that we have done, whether it's event or doing a plantation engagement outside, or going and helping the Pora Karmikas, the BBMP workers on their health awareness drive. People go and shoot those videos, edit it, and we publish through our internal channels. Actually, internally, we do have very robust channels available. We have a weekly newsletter through which we communicate to employees at large. It goes to every employee Tuesday every week. We do have an internal social media channel, which we call Inside Blue. And within Inside Blue, we have a community called Intel India involved employee community. So on that community, on that social media property, there are conversations which take place because collaboration is a key aspect. People seek out opinions, help. So we see good engagement happening on that space, right? So it's a combination of internal social media platform, the weekly newsletter that we do, and where we regularly give updates, not only about updates about the upcoming programs, also talking about the transformation that we're driving, outcome from various programs that we have done over the years. So that's the way we get up to the communication piece of it.
Excellent, thank you. Go ahead, Leandra.
So Nitya, I'd just like to add maybe couple of things that probably we do in addition to some of the stuff that Satya has mentioned. So at the end of every team volunteering event, we encourage our employees to do a little story, which they then put up on our internal social media channel, which we call MySoSocial, with lots of pictures, and it's actually written from the heart, so it shares with the wider population exactly what the employees have supported and what was their experience. So we have our quarterly newsletters that go out. We also use our quarterly town halls as a good opportunity to showcase what has been done in the previous quarter and what's coming up in the next quarter. Another thing that we have is on an annual basis, we have our annual CSR Expo, where we invite our NGO partners to come, and we set up stalls in our town hall area or our cafeterias for them to showcase some of the projects that we've been supporting, so today we've spoken a lot about some of our employee volunteering projects, but I'm sure as Intel is also being doing, we also have done a lot in terms of our CSR projects, which are much wider in terms of whether it's water conservation, sanitation, digital literacy. So the NGOs prepare nice models, and they've got lots of collateral to showcase exactly what has been achieved through the year, and it helps to engage the employees because it gives them that sense of pride with what the company is doing in the wider community. So communication is very, very critical and crucial to the success of this program.
Thank you both so much. I think
great points, Nitya. If I can add a small thing, I think recognition, not a small thing, but a very important thing, right? Recognition is another tool of communicating the impact and goodness of the program, and also at the same time encouraging a lot more people to be part of this momentum, right? So we do. I'm sure many other companies also do it. Recognizing the volunteers more from the work or the impact that they have driven through different initiatives.
Thank you both so much for that. I think so important to mention how this is communicated back to the employee-wide base so that they're inspired and encouraged to participate. And Satya, how you mentioned people really being recognized and rewarded for their efforts as well. So that's really great. Thank you both for sharing that. On the topic of communication, funnily enough, there's another question that's come in about communication, but more actually about how you might encourage employees from various office locations across India to periodically share information about their unique work or programs. And it also says, how do you encourage cross-site collaboration? And that's open to either of you if you'd like to respond.
So, okay, I'll go first. So we just have, offices in 2 locations, like I mentioned earlier, Pune and Chennai. And our Pune location, was launched, first, and Chennai came in much later. So one of the things that we regularly, do is whenever we have some activity happening in Pune, which has been a really, great success, we try and share that with our folks in Chennai and try and replicate the program there. So for instance, we had a huge campaign here where we were painting some of the classrooms in one of the schools that we support, and this was a school called which supports children with mental disability. And it was wonderful because when the children were away on vacation, our employees went in and painted their classrooms with great cartoon characters, and it was amazing to see the look on the kids' faces when they came back on day 1 of the new academic year. So we replicated the same in Chennai, and again it was a huge hit. So that is something that we do in terms of replicating activities, but otherwise I think it's in Pune, we do a lot of tree plantation. Chennai, we try to do a lot of beach cleanup drives, something which can engage, maximum number of volunteers. But I think also our social media, channels help to, share experiences, share, initiatives which then, are taken up by the different, locations. So all in all, I think, sharing best practices internally and as well as externally, hearing, some of the stuff that Intel is doing, always helps in, because I think at the end of the day, one is trying to really make the community a better place to live and work. So, sharing best practices always helps.
Thanks, Leandra. Satya, anything you'd like to add?
No, I completely agree with Leandra. I think collaboration is a key aspect of it. Really dismantling the location barriers, the business group barriers. Like very interestingly, at Intel India, 90% plus employees are based in Bangalore, but in Bangalore we are spread across different locations. But very interesting nuance is that we have different business groups, right? But CSR is one of the aspects where actually people, they come together and they drive the social change, right? I think they're doing it, and also at the same time, I'm sure it is kind of revitalizing the organization as a whole, as an entity, which is really, really great and very progressive.
Great. Thank you both so much. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for Q&A today. However, as this session comes to a close, I'd like to thank, on behalf of Community Business, our panelists, Leandra Mendonca from BNY Mellon and Satyaprakash Singh from Intel, for joining us today to share their best practices, insights, and advice. I'd also like to thank all of our participants for their time. We really hope that you found this session interesting and look forward to the opportunity to continue to support your companies as you think about the role you have to play in promoting social inclusion and engaging your employees. In fact, as we close this session, I'd also like to highlight that at Community Business, we are in the process of compiling research on this very topic, promoting social inclusion, the role of companies in India. This publication is due to be launched early next year. It will discuss some of the issues relating to social inclusion in India, showcase some corporate approaches, and provide recommendations for companies. So please stay tuned for more information on this. But for now, thank you so much for attending. We encourage you to tune in to some of our other sessions and programs today. Also, as a reminder, this session has been recorded and will be available for a period of 30 days. So we encourage you to share with your network and colleagues. Thank you both again, and thank you to our participants. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nithya. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.